welcome to my stream. I'm Father Aniset Pinto, and my channel is Quo Vadis on YouTube. And today I want to talk a little bit about Genesis, as the fall of Adam and Eve, as we find in Genesis 3, and how it pertains to today's culture. There's nothing in this world that is new. It all comes back to what was before. So we're going to take a look at original sin and see how it correlates with what's happening today, SJW and wokedom. So let's take a look here. Hopefully you're able to see all of this, but I will read it, and I will, as I read it, I will also interpret. So I use the RSV version because the Revised Standard Version is a more word-for-word translation. It doesn't doesn't change the meaning to suit agenda. It also does not use inclusive language. What it does, it takes the word and tries to copy the word again in English. And so that translation is the more exact translation that I have found. And now, so let's begin at the very top here, at the fall. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" Now, the preternatural gifts were given in paradise. Once the fall happens, they lose those preternatural gifts. If they disobey God, they will indeed die, even though they were immortal up to that time. In fact, this ability or preternatural gift allows them to live their life without any pain or injury. They also were given the gift of grace by God and knowledge as to what was good and what was evil. So here, the serpent comes and he tantalizes them with what could happen, and poses to them this ability to eat this fruit. And watch how the serpent himself presents the fruit. You will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Now, in today's culture, everyone wants to be able to know everything and open their eyes and be above the next person who might not have their eyes open or be woke to the knowledge. And so here is kind of an interesting thing, because it shows an elevation, the tantalizing temptation of being elevated above. You will all be like unto God. No, in fact, this desire to be God himself is in their minds as well. And you might even imagine a conversation going with both Adam and Eve. We can determine what is good and what is bad. We can know what is good and what is evil. They already had that knowledge from the words of God, but this was a way of enticing them to go one up, and in fact, a temptation to something even higher. So here also, as we see, one of the things that the serpent does is something kind of a way of presenting that fruit. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, there it is, it'll fill my belly. There's something tangible and good, materialistically good for me there. It's pleasing to the eye, something aesthetically good there as well, something that will please me interiorly, not necessarily physically, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, as if this fruit will give you some knowledge that you don't have. She took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig trees together and made coverings for themselves. Here, that is quite interesting here, how the fruit had all of these different temptations within it. Also, now we can begin to extrapolate what is SJWs, what are the woke of the world today. It's all about a type of ability to see racism, make certain things, judgments of what is good and what is evil. And so here it's all kind of falls into the very temptations that the serpent presented. For instance, with regard to racism, if you are now one up on everyone around you, you see things that you can discern are discriminatory against oneself or others, because now you have been presented with the knowledge to know. And this is also plays into with what the serpent does, a hatred of fatherhood, of who the father is, what the father has established, all that has been created. And so this is in fact is a way of uncreating yourself. And it is about an identity here that, for whatever reason, the temptation was you are not really yourselves. If you want to be yourselves, eat this fruit, the serpent says, and you will be more yourselves. A way of identity politics. Here the serpent is playing it with Adam and Eve as well. Identity politics. I imagine too that if there are differences, these are emphasized now individually between Adam and Eve. They don't see themselves in common cause anymore. In fact, they themselves are turning away from God and fall against and fall even against each other in some ways. Look at this. So let's read this next section. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Here they become very, very conscientious about themselves and their bodies. They're no longer carefree, but now they care about how they look to one another. And in fact, they cover themselves up because they see themselves as exposed, as naked. When the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord as he was walking in the garden on the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord among the trees of the garden, but the Lord called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Here, in a collapsed form, we see everything that has happened to the man now. He is frightened. He is hiding. And now, this is a large part of what happens in today's society, because they have distanced themselves so much from the past, from established goodness and wisdom, from a fatherhood who has given an inheritance, a if you will, a kind of legacy to those who come afterwards. But today's society is very much against fatherhood, the establishment of what has been inherited. Tomorrow, I'm going to go into that with another passage from the Bible, and I would ask you to stay tuned for that as well. But here we begin to see what is happening in the garden is happening already in the world as well. When you are in fear, when you are ashamed of being exposed, when you do not live in the light and you live in the darkness, you strike out against others and you decide what is good and what is evil, because you no longer accept what has been established through generations, through what we might call fatherhood, through a legacy of inheriting what has been known to be good in the past, and you set out on a different course. And because you've set out on this different course, you become a kind of a miserableness in it, with Adam and Eve both being, in this sense, miserable. Now they know that they have sinned against the Father. So there is hope. There is a hope that lies within them. But how many that do the same things that have been done since the beginning of creation? The evils that have been done, think that they have done anything wrong. So he talks to them. Where are you? He answered, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. And he said, God says, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? The man said, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. Then the Lord God said to the woman, what is it you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me and I ate. So the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between her offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. To the woman he said, I will make you pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. So pain and suffering enter into this world through the fall. Before the fall, there was no pain, there was no suffering, there was no toil. At the same time, they do live on. They do not immediately die. They will live a regular life, and they will enter into old age, and they will be doing. Won't have God at so close a proximity to be able to help them anymore. So to Adam, he says, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you will return. And this is essentially that there's a little bit more. Adam named his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. And the Lord God said, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So the Lord God banished them from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. So that's the passage. And I wanted to go over it, give a little bit of an interpretation as I went through it, because there is a lot interesting in the passage itself that can give you an indication of the sins of today as well. And nothing has changed in all of these centuries. We are still the same human beings that we always were. We have the same temptations, and we fall into the same sins. In today's world, we could take a look at Disney and how Disney has really gone against what it used to do. And so let's take a look at this because this is interesting as well. A rejection of the Father. A rejection of the Father. Because the Father in heaven was rejected by Adam and Eve. And in that rejection, there's a rejection of the Father and everything that he had established as good for them and evil. I do not want anything that you have. So you can imagine Adam and Eve. We want this because this will tell us what is good and what is evil. You will no longer tell us that. So let's take a look at this one because I think it's interesting. Okay, just simply the title, How Disney Teaches Contempt for Dads. And by that, I mean, they're acting like the serpent. Disney acts like the serpent. They're teaching contempt for dads. So the serpent, what did he do? He taught contempt to Adam and Eve about what Disney, like Disney. The serpent taught contempt for the Father in heaven to Adam and Eve. Disney's doing the same thing. Teaches contempt for the Father who has established some part of the world of the children, given them rules, possibly, that they must obey. And here, Disney is certainly going against family, but more particularly, going against dads by teaching contempt for dads. So there's another one that I want to share with you as well. Let's see the next one. Yeah, you could find these all over the place, but it really does give you an indication of where they're going. Look at this. They put it with Luke Skywalker, not Luke Skywalker. What's his name? Han Solo, Star Wars, and Chewbacca in the background. It's kind of funny because they sure tanked that particular IP, intellectual property. It's a piece of garbage now. The original trilogy, that's the only trilogy that matters, I guess. So here we look at this culture. Why must every Hollywood hero have a dead or deadbeat dad? A feint toward common experience becomes one of the industry's most boring tropes. Indeed. But you see, it's also an attack on what has been established before. So everything from the very beginning of Hollywood that was learned and constructed as good uh, by Walt himself, Walt Disney, who established certainly fun, family-friendly parks, fun, family-friendly shows, TV, movies, animated, and now it's a race to the bottom as to how they can destroy every part of the legacy that was created by better men than they are, better people than they are. And that's happening all over Hollywood. Hollywood is a real disaster area for dads and fatherhood, for establish what has been established, legacies that have happened years ago are now being taken apart and destroyed. And all in the name of this wokeness. We know better. This idea that all of these things, whoever made them or established them, we know now that they were all um, less than they were. Not that they lived in their time and did the best that they can, but they were less because we now have the knowledge. We are woke to all their stuff. Every aspect of their creation is racist, is discriminatory, is evil, and this is part of that temptation that the serpent presented to Adam and Eve as well. That everything the fathers have established are evil and bad, and so there's an interesting aspect there of this stuff. Um, let's see, what else could we talk about? Uh, talk about comic books. They certainly have done the same thing. There's a kind of a race to the bottom between DC Comics and Marvel Comics uh, as to who could become um, the most woke or um, superior being there that will judge everything else as evil and horrible. So, and they hate fatherhood there as well. Boy, oh boy, do they hate Superman. They hate Jonathan Kent. They have totally destroyed uh, every comic book character that had any kind of legacy. It's sad. It's sad. Try to change everything to suit an agenda created by this wokeness. The temptation went out, and boy, did they took it line and sinker. Or what's it called? Like a fish. They took the bait. Yes, it's a kind of a sad thing, and but we should be aware and be more discriminatory about what is happening with regard to the temptations that occurred with the serpent against Adam and Eve, but that they're not gone. They're just happening every day, everywhere. Any person that has this temptation thrown at them. Remember that it might be a physical temptation, money. It might be uh, an aesthetic temptation. Oh, we will make this. Oh, how beautiful, how pretty. All this makeup and men with makeup and uh, fleshy eyebrows. It's sad. And they're no longer really men. Anyway, and then they also do this with the intellectual. All of a sudden, they know better. Whatever has been established as a norm as wisdoms of the past are to be deconstructed and destroyed. That's a sad situation. But if you're aware of it, you can navigate through this world still and be able to discern what is good and avoid what is evil. Yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you for being with me. I hope you enjoyed yourself with this little exposition on Genesis. I try to give a little bit of information, a little bit of thought-provoking you know, extrapolation of certain sections, and I'll continue to do that. As I said, today's is over, and hopefully you view this, you will strike the like and subscribe, um, and please do share, clip any part of it, and pass it on and enjoy. All the best. I'm Father Aniset Pinto, a Catholic priest in Vancouver, and all God's blessings upon you. Bye bye.